There are many things about which we could preach today. The gospel selection is a powerful indictment of all of those who have received the Word of God and have used it for their own gain, for their own power, not only of those against whom it was originally directed, those who had received the first covenant, and used it in order to subject others to their will and to seize what was the property of God, the souls of those entrusted to their care for their own gain. But we might speak as well of the epistle reading, which does not seem to be particularly significant. It's the end of the letter. Paul is simply greeting various people in the church in Corinth and sending greetings from those in the other churches on the other side of the Aegean Sea. Come inside, have a seat. But this too is of profound significance. For if we were ourselves to trace back over the centuries how it was that the Christian faith had come to us, we would be looking to two individuals, or to two sets of people, I should say, to our parents and to our godparents, or perhaps along with them a mentor, a priest, someone through whom we heard the Word of God. And then we would trace that genealogy further to see from whom did they receive the gospel, and further still, through the next generation, from whom did they first hear the good news of Christ's coming. And then to the next generation, perhaps a generation of martyrs, a generation that suffered persecution and yet endured and held fast to the faith. And so on through the centuries until the names are lost in the mists of time. We could not build with all the research and all the computing power of all the computers in the world. We could not build a complete family tree of the Christian faith, of how it is that we who are seated here today come to be here. It would be as complex as the most complex system. I won't try to find an appropriate simile. The point is, in the epistle reading, we are given the names that we would find at the beginning. The first who accepted and embraced the name of Christ in the land of Greece. These names, we might say, should be burned in our minds and in our hearts, for they are our foreparents in the faith. It is through them that we have received the blessing of being here today. Names that we might otherwise skip over as an afterthought should resound for us, because through them we have been blessed, and all the generations of our ancestors, both by blood and in the Spirit, have been blessed through their faith. But let us look still more closely, because it is not a small thing that they did. If you speak to sociologists, to anthropologists, to people who study human societies and human persons, we can see two trends that seem to compete with one another. On the one hand, children, when they grow, tend to rebel, to reject in some sense the faith of their parents, to find their own way. And sometimes they leave and then come back later. And sometimes they leave or try to leave and find that what their parents taught them how their parents raised them remains with them, however far they may stray. But either way, we see this very frequently in the modern day. The other trend is that once you have a religion, once you have a life that is built around a way of believing, a way of worshiping, it tends not to change. And that ultimately is more powerful than the inclination of the young to rebel against their parents. You're wondering where this is going. Yes, I'm a little bit boring. Hang on. It will make sense. What led Stephanas and Fortunatus and Aquila and Priscilla and all the others named in the epistle today to forsake the teaching of their ancestors, the worship of the gods of Olympus or the following of the philosophers, and to instead worship Christ? What brought about this change? How was it that they found the clarity of mind and the depth of heart to comprehend that what Christ preached, what was told of him by those who came and preached the good news, fulfilled all the best of Greek culture and religion, and cleaned it of all that was low and troubled? How were they given eyes to see, and ears to hear, and hearts to comprehend? Still more, how did that small beachhead in Athens, in Corinth, eventually in Thebes, how did that come over the centuries to upend what had been before? How did the nation of the Greek gods, of Homer and Achilleia, how did it come to worship the one true God? This is a miracle. It is a marvel. It is a testament to the truth of the gospel that this change was able to happen. But still more, we must reflect, we must recognize that the change once accomplished could have gone back. We might expect children to rebel, to reject their parents' teaching for one generation, but their children to go back to what had been before. But this does not happen. Through all the centuries of invasions and persecutions and trouble from the emperor and trouble from the Arabs and trouble from the Normans and trouble from everyone, the faith is held fast to. So that when those first immigrants came from Greece here, they bore in their hearts a flame, not just of Greek culture, but of Greek culture baptized and transformed by the name of Christ. So that we who stand here, who sit here today, call ourselves by the name of the Lord first, and then we call ourselves Hellenes, Greeks. The argument might be made for other faiths. It is not by itself a proof of Christianity, but it is a profound marvel nonetheless, how it was that we came to be Christians. For we are not the first. Well, I am the first in my family to be an Orthodox Christian, but not to be a Christian. It speaks of the power of the Christian faith. It speaks of the reality of Christ's presence, that over so many uncounted lives of human beings, the faith has proved to be a source of strength that can sustain through the joys and the sorrows and the brokenness of life. It is not something to lay easily aside. It is not something to dismiss just because the fads of the day say that all of history is irrelevant and we have now arrived at true understanding. Others have thought this before us, and yet the faith has endured. The point is this: as we sit here in the church, waiting in the back, uncomfortable because we didn't get here in time to have a seat before the priest started talking, and will he just hurry up and stop? I understand. Thank you for your patience. As we sit here wondering what in the world is he talking about with the history and the sociology and the anthropology, I didn't come for a lecture. As we sit here wondering, why is it all in Greek? Or why is it all in English? Or why does it take so long? And what's the big deal with church anyway? The questions are fine, so long as we pursue an answer, so long as we recognize that there is an answer, that we are not the first to have asked the question, and that the answer to the question is profound and deep, that there is a reason to be here beyond the fact for the children that our parents maybe dragged us along by the ear and said, "Come on, it's time for church, hurry up, don't wait." We are here because Christ is here. And in him we live and we move and we have our being. In him we find joy to transcend sorrow. In him we find peace to conquer all the wars of the nations. In him we find truth to confound the wise. Here and nowhere else. And as we ask the question and seek the answer, we build the next layer of the Lord's work in this world, so that those who come after us will look back to us and say, "Thanks be to God for those who held the faith in that generation, who found the peace of God in the midst of the troubles and tribulations of the age." May they be blessed, for their faith has come to us and given to us as well the peace of God. Please stand. We will continue the Divine Liturgy.